Hello everyone, welcome to the online lecture series of Vehicle Testing and Homologation. I am Milan Trivedi, professor at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology, and this is our 12th lecture. We were discussing about the fourth chapter of VTH, that is Vehicle Performance Testing. In the last lecture, we had already seen which are the different energy consumption modes in the automobile, as well as we had already discussed about the different gases coming out from the exhaust gas, the percentage of energy consumption at particular region of automobile, as well as emissions mode. Now let us continue with the fourth chapter. Now we are having different tests to study, in which the first test is the gradability test. First of all, let us define the gradability. Gradability is defined as the highest grade a vehicle can ascend, or the highest slope on which vehicle can travel. Particularly, this is an important factor because tractive effort which we are generating is having a huge impact on the gradability. Gradability can also be measured in these two terms. It can be measured directly in terms of theta, how much angle on which it can travel. Say for example 30 degree, 35 degree. Another way we can define gradability is rise over run factor, right? Say for example 1 in 20 meter. So traveling 20 meter on horizontal path and vertical distance is 1 meter. That kind of slope is there, then that gradability is written as 1 in 20 meter. So in this two different way we can write down the gradability. Now in order to measure the gradability, we are taking the car to some tracks or some slope. Basically, from formula it can be find out through this. If we want to have the gradability in percentage form, then we need to multiply 100. Otherwise, you can directly write it as 10 into sine inverse sine theta into Wt by Wr. Here theta is the angle on which vehicle is traveling. Wt is the weight of the vehicle. Whenever we are doing the test, whatever weight we are keeping, that weight will be recorded, and WR is the gross vehicle weight, right? The designed weight of the vehicle, whatever weight is there of the total car, that is to be kept. So naturally the WR quantity would be fixed, that WT would be as per the testing standard. Say for example the car is designed in such a way to carry at least 400 kg, so that weight would be kept over here, and we need to have a record of this particular theta value. Theta is actually the slope angle of the test track used for the test. Gradability says the maximum grade vehicle can ascend maintaining a constant speed. So we need to have a value of that theta at which the speed of the vehicle remains constant. It should not be declined by having ascending the grade, right, or while traveling the slope. It must maintain the constant speed. That particular value of theta would be recorded, right? Keeping that theta value over this formula, we will get the value of gradability, right? So this is how gradability can be measured. Our next topic is the turning circle diameter. Now, as the name suggests, turning circle diameter is actually the diameter which is plotted when we are turning the vehicle. But yes, obviously there is some testing standard. We will elaborate that fundamental. But the main reason to find out this turning circle diameter is to have an idea about the space requirement. It will give the idea that this will be the maximum space which will be utilized while turning the vehicle. Okay. Now let us understand how we perform this turning circle diameter test. As I told, it gives the indication of space required to turn a vehicle. In this particular test, what we are doing is we will steer the steering wheel extremely towards left or extremely towards right. Either of the two cases can be there. Say for example, in this particular diagram, you can see we are turning vehicle, or we are turning the steering wheel extremely left. Then we will rotate the vehicle. Then you will notice that there is a generation of one circle. overall diameter of this circle will be defined as the turning circle diameter. Okay. In order to have that turning circle diameter, we need to have an understanding of steering geometry and suspension geometry. Just two parameters are actually affecting this turning circle diameter. Okay. We need to design the vehicle in a such a way, and it is obvious requirement that less space must be required in order to turn the vehicle, right? As the turning circle diameter would be less, you will be having a proper steering control. Okay, but let us understand how to get the value of turning circle diameter. As well as what we are doing is we are actually, one question will arise that the circle will be plotted by inner wheel, outer wheel, which will need to be considered. See, our ultimate goal is to find out the space utilization. So that would be find out only when we are actually plotting the circle with the help of outer wheels, right? That will only give you the better judgment. So we are taking the outer wheel. So if these are the two wheels, say for example front wheel which is turning, this is the rear wheel. The radius would be, say for example, it is suggested by capital R. To the rear wheel it is denoted by small r. This two data we are having. Apart from that, this W is indicating the wheelbase, the distance between front wheel and rear wheel, right? And from the side view it can be observed. And if we take the top view, then we are steering towards extremely left, then that angle is noted as, say for example, alpha angle. Okay, so these are the terms which is directly affecting the steering geometry, W and alpha. If we are maintaining these two different angles in a proper way, then we can have a proper turning circle diameter. Okay, now here's just trigonometry is involved. Sin alpha would be written as capital W by capital R, and if we take tan alpha, it can be written as capital W by small r, right? From that, you can directly get the value of capital R as well as small r. That is the turning circle radius you will get out of outer circle as well as of inner circle. Just from the theoretical calculation, you can achieve this particular data, right? But as I told, this is to be verified with the help of doing the performance test, which we are doing on track. Okay, but this turning circle diameter, if we summarize, it is actually depending on this steering angle as well as the wheelbase. Now let us understand the next test, that is a steering impact test. How much impact is produced when a steering is actually colliding with either chest or head. Actually, this particular test comes under the 7th chapter when we discuss about active and passive safety system. But right now we are having glimpse on this particular steering impact test. Here what we are doing is, there will be one steering column on which we will do the impact of one dummy. Dummy body is impacted on the steering column at 24.1 kilometer per hour speed, right? And we will record that how much damage is happening to the body of the dummy over chest part, and later on we can do on this head part as well, right? This is required in order to find out how much damage can happen, how much passenger can be impacted whenever there is impact of steering column. Nowadays, in order to eliminate that, we are provided with the collapsible steering column. A steering column will collapse so that impact can be dampened, right? It can be reduced. Basically, we are having this two tests to study, and first head impact and second chest impact at 24.1 kilometer per hour speed. That we need to remember. Next one is the steering effort test. Steering effort test is to find out the amount of effort required to steer the vehicle. Now, this is very easy nowadays to find out the value of steering effort. Obviously, if we take the mechanical steering, which was used in Maruti 800 and that range of car way back 20 years ago. In that particular steering, we need to have a lot of effort. Large mechanical effort was required. Later on, hydraulic steering system came. Nowadays, we are using extensively electrical steering, in which minimum effort is required in order to steer the vehicle, right? So, how to identify the amount of effort required to steer the vehicle? For that, we are having the CLS sensor, that is a capacitive level sensor. This particular sensor will generate certain amount of capacitance, and from that data of capacitance, we actually get the idea of torque, which is used to steer the wheel. In order to test that, we are actually removing the steering wheel first of all. After removing the wheel, we will put this CLS sensor in between. Then again, we will fix the steering pad. Okay, then we will rotate the wheel. This CLS sensor will give the data of the torque. This is the easiest way in which we can record the effort which is required to drive the steering wheel. Apart from that, some of the times with the help of encoder, we are noting down the rotation also, so that along with rotation, you will get the idea of torque. Okay. So this is all about steering effort. Now let us have an understanding of one of the easiest topic of fourth chapter, that is what is the effect of weather on vehicle performance. So it is asked as weather and vehicle performance. Normally we are having the three different weathering condition, that is summer days, winter days or rainy condition. The first question we arises, in which season we get the maximum efficiency. Many of the students may have confusion that in winter time we may have a better efficiency. But let us understand the exact scenario. Say for example, in summer days, the problem is that air would be less dense. So that is a positive point for us. You don't face the problem of cold starting and all. You won't face the heavy friction between these piston and cylinder assembly. Apart from that, tire will be properly inflated. Along with that, if the problem part is the AC is drawing more power, so that will create issue. But still, we are having a lot of other advantage. Right? But with the open window, you cannot travel. If you are traveling with the open window, then obviously it will fetch the average, right? So this is better condition as compared to winter. Why winter is having lot many of disadvantage? Now we are going to understand. In winter, air is very much dense, so it will take more pumping effort to draw air inside and outside engine, right? Apart from that, tire will get under inflamed very soon, so it will increase the rolling resistance. So in that way also vehicle efficiency would be reduced. Another impact is due to the cold starting, right? Initially you need to have a lot of cell that will drain the battery also, right? So battery performance will also get weakened, so that will also have a other impact. Apart from that, then another thing is the best efficient temperature of fuel economy would take a longer time to achieve, right? So in that way also the efficiency would be reduced. Considering the rainy condition, we are having a lot of problems with the rain, right? We need to drive at particular speed range only, which may have some other impact. So overall winter is an advantageous condition. Let us understand the traffic condition and driving skill impact on the vehicle performance. Basically, five parameters we need to understand. We should accelerate gently. We must maintain a constant speed. We must anticipate traffic, avoid the areas where having high traffic. We need to avoid high speed. It is said that whenever we are driving very harsh, or rough driving, there is a reduction in efficiency of 33%. Then cost to decelerate, right? You need to decelerate very gently, right? So these are the main 5 parameters. Second graph is indicating the sweet spot region. That is normally from 30 to 90 in most of the car. In that range, you will get the better mileage. Okay. So that's all about this. We are ending up with the fourth chapter. Thanks for watching.